Story 1, going through it at the moment. Part of me wants to fight all this shit out of pure spite. The other wants to just sleep. Story 2, it took a piece out of me, but the alternative was to end it. My business partner committed financial fraud, lied to the rest of the board members, and put a 4.5 million target on my back. He stopped paying taxes and kept it off the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. At first I said, "You fucked up, but we just need to solve this and work together." Over the months, trying to keep the company alive to reach a sale and resolve the debt, I just eroded. I was burned out, lied to, and angry at myself for not asking more questions while trying to keep the 80 people around me employed. In February, I lost my hearing because of stress. I left the company I founded in June. I'm doing much better now. A lot of it was just one step at a time. Keep moving. Keep trying. Therapy helped. As my therapist described it, I was doing all the right things, working out, eating well, trying to get sleep, and talking, but my body was being attacked. I needed to stop that, and only then could I become better. Story 3. Pure, unadulterated stubbornness and the desire to say fuck you to everyone who was happy about my misfortune. Story 4. Every time I'm close to getting fired, I take a leave of absence. At first I thought I was sneakily gaming the system, until I realized I was being dismissed because I had been too depressed to do my job effectively, and that is exactly what a leave of absence is for. I think it is important to make decisions, any decisions. If your decision is to stay home and not work, fine. You decided. Allow yourself to be still. You can make a new decision later or tomorrow. For me, being passive without making it a conscious decision means my brain will hate me for having been inactive when I could or should have done other things. Making it a decision removes some of that negative self-criticism. I have been through enough shit. I do not need to hate myself for my body's survival mode. I just need to keep going. Obviously, there are limits. You still need to shower, get nutrition, and tend to your health. Most of us need to do something to earn money and maintain stability. But the negative part of your mind does not control everything. Story 5. I worked doubles at the grocery store and picked up every shift I could. I made large batches of food to eat for a couple of days so I could come home, crash, then wake up and do it again. I saved money and left the city. I found it hard to stay afloat on my own. Living with someone helped a lot. Story 6. Routine. Force yourself to get up, shower, and write a plan for the day. For example, I will apply for 3 jobs today. Do not doom scroll. Schedule your screen time for the evening, but get tasks done during the day. Story 7. I became employed and experienced stress from commuting, workplace drama, constant overworking, and not having enough time. I also became sick more often from being around many people. Finally, I decided that starting my own business was the way to go. I risked everything and succeeded. Story 8. I made a plan and stuck with it. Took a few years, but everything improved as I reached each milestone. Story 9. Journaling and actively trying to get out of it, even when I felt awful. When you write it down, it is easy to see which days you gave up, and you can remind yourself that it was the depression that day, not you. Story 10. Unfortunately, the only solution for me was to get a job. Story 11. Being outside helped. My depression worsened when I was cooped up inside. I was lucky to live within walking distance of my favorite free art museum, which has a park in the center. I would walk there almost every day, lie on my blanket, journal, practice yoga, watch people, and more. Now that I am doing better, it has become even more comforting. Story 12. I haven't. I'm still in it, and I'm about 2 months from total bankruptcy if I don't find a job within the next couple of weeks. My time has literally run out, and my kids are about to be homeless. If you find a way to deal with this stress and get through it, please let me know. Story 13. The humiliation and shame can linger well after you get through the financial struggles. I believe we must accept that we do not have as much control over these matters as we think. Story 14. I was depressed while unemployed. I read a lot of Marxist literature and came to believe that capitalism is the problem in society. Your worth as a person and your skills and value are independent of what the market demands or will pay for. Then I got a job and I have a pretty healthy attitude toward work. I stop working after 8 hours and do not feel loyalty to my employer. Story 15. I focused on what I could do at the time and set aside things I could not. I used writing as an escape and a hobby because it was free and the only thing I could do at my job. Long days, monotonous tasks, required ear protection, and largely working alone. I worked extremely hard doing 2 jobs and performed well enough in one to get the vice president's attention. That is a story for another day. I will not go into the details, but it drained me emotionally. I now take antidepressants and struggle to empathize with people. Story 16. I hardly feel able to leave my house without being apprehended by secret police. I would be so happy if all I had to worry about were generating income. I am a law-abiding citizen. I cannot imagine what it would be like to have a work or student visa. They can literally profile you, throw you in a van, not tell anyone they took you, and then release you once they have confirmed your identity weeks later. I deal with the stress by stretching, eating healthily, staying on top of responsibilities, resting, and limiting news consumption while remaining informed. Story 17. I changed how I identified myself. Our jobs are far too entwined with our self-worth. Losing my job taught me that I am not defined by what I earn. Story 18. If I let worries consume me, I would be homeless. I used to have serious mental breakdowns, but I pushed through, and it paid off eventually. I made it my life's purpose to avoid depending on someone else, but I asked for help when I needed it. Story 19. Take up sports. Bicycling, weightlifting, even walking outdoors. Get sunshine. Story 20. I usually just sit in a dark corner, puff on my electronic cigarette, and think about everything bad that's ever happened to me. Story 21. I have a loving girlfriend who supported me mentally rather than financially. Long walks helped a lot. Took time, but I finally understood this would pass. It was a temporary phase. I worked hard and got a great job. Story 22. My spouse, prescriptions, and credit card debt. What else is there? I am a victim of the American healthcare system because of a severe traumatic brain injury, so it is a double burden. My Social Security disability claim was denied, and the appeal has been pending for about 7 months. I do not have an answer on how to get through this because I am still living it. I am looking for answers as well. Story 23. I lived in a car for 6 years, never having enough money to participate in most activities, and never having the space or ability to host friends. I lost many friends simply by being unavailable and depressed. Eventually, I found a job and made enough money to get an apartment and a girlfriend. I still have the van I lived in, and my girlfriend loves it and wants to take it on camping trips. I have a tumultuous relationship with my experiences in it, so I often refuse. It is difficult, but you have to keep going. Find ways to save. Look for opportunities to enrich yourself. Seek free experiences, and be open with your friends about your limitations and what they mean to you. Story 24. By dissociating so much, I basically became a non-player character in my own life. The side quests were mostly crying and applying for jobs. The experience was 0 out of 10, but the music was kind of chill. Story 25. I have had a lot of counseling, but I still get anxious about finances even though I am mostly fine. My therapist says it was traumatic to be in the poor financial situation I experienced, and that experience carries across a lifetime. Story 26. I took whatever job I could and stayed as busy as possible. I did not want to work at an overstimulating travel center as a cashier or as a substitute teacher, but it paid the bills. I treated time outside transitional work, such as applying for jobs, as if it were a job. I added free outdoor activities. Getting outside helped a lot. Walking, hiking, keeping outdoor areas clean, and sometimes splurging on gas for a drive to public access points at lakes and rivers when being near the water made me feel better. When my schedule allowed, I maintained a routine of working, applying for jobs, and taking care of myself and my home. The top comment said, "The only way out is through," and unfortunately it is true. You have this. Story 27. I made a huge effort to switch careers and find new work. After 4 intense months, an offer came. Paid little, but it was something. I poured all my energy into the role and turned it into a high-paying position. I saved myself and my family. I had no choice. I had to act or I would have failed. Story 28. I had to get medication for anxiety and depression from my doctor. I was in a really dark place, but life is so much better on the other side. Story 29. Going to the gym 100% is probably the most productive thing you can do when you are unemployed. Story 30. It was a shock to the system. My roommate was arrested and sentenced to 3 years. I was not on the lease, so I had to move out by the end of the month. I ended up moving back into my mother's house at age 30 after not living there since 21. I did not have a full-time job at the time but told her I did. Every morning I woke at 8 a.m., left the house, sat on a park bench for 8 hours, then went home. I could not really use my computer because the wireless internet did not reach the room I was in, and she would not let me run a cable. She went to sleep around 8 p.m. and I stayed up until 2 a.m., but I would wake her if I used the bathroom. After 2 weeks of that setup, I said we needed to do something about it. I went to a hiring agency and got a factory job making minimum wage but working 60 hours a week. I had $50 to my name and spent it on Payless steel-toe boots. I found a room to rent and was out of my mother's within a couple of months. I worked hard, took risks, and moved up. I now make a 6-figure income, own a house, and am considering buying a boat. I remember being 28 with no degree and no marketable skills, thinking there was no way I would ever be able to afford a studio apartment. It turned out the option had been there the whole time. I also quit smoking marijuana for 5 years. I do a little now, but quitting then was an important part of doing something different. Story 31. I am still struggling despite being in my job for 2 years. My savings are not there, the mortgage has increased, I feel terrible, have negative thoughts, and am tired all the time, so I am nowhere near through it. Story 32. I used it as motivation to create a far better financial situation, one with multiple income streams. That way, if one dries up, I am not left without options. Story 33. Use the time to focus on taking care of yourself. Only do things that benefit you. For example, make time to regularly connect with friends and family. Learn a new skill, see a therapist or coach, go for a walk outdoors, and unplug from the news and social media. Story 34. Fixed everything in my house that was bothering me. The shower caulking looks awful, but at least it's done. Story 35. I am miserable. I need $50 to pay rent and cannot get any help. Story 36. I am going through it right now. I received an interior design diploma 2 years ago and am still unemployed. I am thinking of switching fields. Story 37. Curiosity. Falling in love with the world is like falling in love with someone. You have to see things as they are, not as you want them to be. I decided to understand rather than react. I read and study. I enjoy meeting people and making them smile. Everything else is a privilege to witness. Story 38. With my wife's support in therapy, I was covered by her health insurance. Story 39. Keep a normal schedule. Don't stay in bed all day. Get up, have breakfast, and work out. Set aside time to apply for jobs. But don't spend all day searching. Being unemployed can give you time to evaluate the direction of your life and can be an opportunity to redefine it. I hope you have a savings account with funds. If not, this should show why one is important. Story 40. We are at risk of losing our house, so the stress is very high. I do not let myself sink into a low mood. I have a family who needs someone to fight to make things better. We have a plan and steps are being taken for the future. Story 41. Getting professional help, a good support network, video games, and cannabis. It's difficult, and as others have said, it takes a piece of you. Take it day by day and you will make it. Story 42. I had a rough time. I had felony charges pending, not convictions, so anytime I got a job offer, the background check would ruin my chances. I started losing hope and drinking a lot. I emptied my 401k retirement plan to cover my mortgage while I continued searching. I sold my house and moved into an apartment while looking for work. Finally, I got a good job after about 6 months of unemployment and hardship. I have been there since and I am much happier. I am furious with my old employer for firing me a week before Christmas to reclaim unvested stock. I should have sued them, to be honest. Story 43. Keep finding ways to make changes. For jobs, keep applying and be open to opportunities. My current job is with a company I had written off long ago. I have been there almost 4 years, and it is the best job I have had. If I had not been unemployed at the right time, I would not work here. For money, small changes can have a big impact. Find cheaper alternatives to what you need to buy, for example, generic or store brand items. Forecasting 1 to 2 months ahead helps me as well. If I know what our accounts will look like or even have a general idea, it is much easier to be proactive about spending rather than reactive when things get tight. Another important rule is not to bury yourself in payment plans. A 6-payment plan at 0% interest may seem like a good deal, but if you have 4 other plans like that, you will pay a lot more each month. Financing purchases can snowball quickly if you are not careful. Story 44. I am taking one day at a time and holding on to hope, cheesy as it sounds. I lie awake at night worrying about how to buy toilet paper and cat litter. Story 45. Honestly, I stopped pretending I was fine. The hardest part was the shame, feeling like I'd failed. Once I opened up to friends and admitted I was struggling, it got a little lighter. They couldn't fix it, but they showed up, and that made all the difference. Story 46. Men, you are not depressed because of some chemical imbalance or hormones. You are depressed because you are not doing anything. Get outside, get sunshine and fresh air. Be with people. Establish a routine. You need to have something to wake up for. Eventually that will become work, but step 1 is to have something that makes you feel like you accomplished something on most days. Story 47. Do your best with the opportunities you are given. Not everyone has the same opportunities. Story 48. Today you fucking hustle. You can think about it when you are finally secure. Story 49. You need an immigrant mentality. Immigrants come to this country with nothing and often do not know English. They work very hard and are willing to do whatever it takes to earn money. Do the same. Story 50. A long, slow rebound, but once I got my finances back together, my mood shifted. Story 51. My partner and I understood that money is important but not essential. We decided to get ahead by producing more than before, and that allowed us to move out of the worst situation. Do not be discouraged. Story 52. I did not see any comments saying they asked God for help. When I was laid off and had a child to feed and rent to pay, I went job hunting. In the meantime, I began to feel sick. It turned out I had Epstein-Barr virus in the 1980s, and it took 18 months to recover. With no money and behind on rent, I asked God for help. I did not even know him, but he knew me and was waiting to help. Help came. Story 53. I worked hard to get another job, to prove myself there, and to rise through the ranks. Story 54. Keep going. I tried to keep life as normal as possible while maintaining a much stricter budget. Instead of going out to eat, we would occasionally splurge on fancy ingredients and cook a restaurant-style dinner at home. Instead of going to the theater, I obtained movies from alternative sources. Story 55. Self-awareness and learning not to judge myself because, as others put it, babe, this could happen to anyone. Story 56. I felt sorry for myself for a week or so, but I figured that wasn't going to help pay the bills. The last layoff from my manufacturing job pushed me to change careers. Getting laid off turned out to be the best thing that happened to me. Then my husband was laid off as well. Those were hard times. Story 57. Just keep moving forward toward your goal. Even if it will take a long time to get there. Time will pass anyway. Story 58. I signed up for a free app that helped me go outside and move my body every day. In my case, it was the Couch to 5 Kilometer program. I also started dropping a star into a bucket each time I applied for a job to create a kindergarten-style visual sense of accomplishment. Story 59. In the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, I was laid off 3 times in 18 months, which led to the worst depression of my life. For a time, I was barely holding on, living in my parents' basement. I was fortunate that a supportive cousin offered me the opportunity to move across the country and live with him rent-free for 9 months. I worked at a pizza place and began paying off my debt and building a small savings while I looked for another job. Because I did not know anyone else in the area, I started going to the gym to occupy my time. I also found a church community where I felt comfortable. This combination of good fortune helped me heal from some deep-seated trauma and gave me the confidence to begin college. Story 60. One day at a time, and eventually everything works itself out. Hang in there. Story 61. I did heavy inner work, a spiritual journey healing wounds and traumas, all by myself. Now it is joy and pure magic. The day after tomorrow I start the new job I manifested. Came to me. Earlier I only took the jobs I could get. My friend helped and that helped heal me too. Story 62. Talking about it with my spouse helped. Keeping our feelings to ourselves only made it feel like we were fighting a huge battle alone. Sharing it made us feel less alone and like we were sharing the load. It was hard. There was pain, tears, and feelings of failure. But we agreed we are in this together and there is no reason for blame or shame. We support each other to get past it. Story 63. Meditation and yoga helped a lot. The spiritual aspect was very effective at getting me out of my head. Story 64. One day at a time. Find something that can make some money, even if it's only a few dollars a day. Story 65. The only way out is hope and improvement. The thing that will keep you alive is hope. No matter the situation, if you lose hope, it's over. Remember to look forward. Things will be fine. Without improvement, nothing will get better. Take a deep breath, understand your situation, and find the root cause. People often spend 10 hours watching their phone, not socializing, and eating junk food, then complain about depression. Don't be like that. Fix your lifestyle. Drink plenty of water and eat clean food. Meditation is helpful. Find the root cause of the issue. Have hope that you will overcome it. Work toward overcoming it. Story 66. When my fiancée passed away earlier this year, I lost our home and my car. After taking extended time off work, I also lost my job. I cannot explain the level of stress I experienced on top of the intense grief. The first thing was relying on the people in my life. My friends and family are the sole reason I got through this. You have to be diligent and keep pushing. Break everything into steps. It can be overwhelming, but I got through it. I applied to more than 20 jobs a day and improved my resume. I found a better job, took advantage of a tax incentive through Tesla to buy a Model 3 at an affordable price, and toured countless apartments until I found a small renovated unit in a transitioning area at a great price. It took a lot of energy and relentless dedication to put things back together. Financially, I was fortunate to have a GoFundMe campaign, which really helped, although it only covered about half of what I spent in the aftermath. Even without that help, if you work tirelessly and focus on finding solutions, you can recover. Story 67. One small step at a time. Don't look ahead. Focus on what you can do right now and do it. Remind yourself it's temporary and keep grinding. Story 68. I took whatever I could get, but most of all I had support. I could not have done it without that support. If you are in this situation, seek psychological help if possible. Story 69. Above all else, a hardworking spouse who did not blame me, stood by me, and showed me grace while I looked for my next position. Story 70. Reach rock bottom and press the reset button. Do whatever it takes. Move back in with your parents to remove financial stressors and other pressures. Commit to intensive therapy for a short period, even if it is expensive. Make a new plan. Story 71. Crying from starvation and watching Minecraft videos on YouTube for distraction. Story 72. No matter how bad it gets, tomorrow is coming. One foot in front of the other, and eventually things get better. Story 73. Find work, whatever it is. If you do not like it, find better work and work your way out. The work comes first. Story 74. I was unemployed during the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic for about 6 months. It was rough financially, but I watched many tutorials and practiced things I had wanted to learn for a long time. That helped a lot in my later job, kept my morale high, and helped me feel useful. Story 75. Still dealing with it, but it gets easier day by day. Stay focused on what you can control. Story 76. I was injured in an accident a couple of years ago after I left my job to pursue a new opportunity. The accident left me unable to work for roughly 6 months. My profession involves hands-on work and requires mobility, so I stayed at home most days. It was torturous at first, but I realized it is okay not to be in control. Accepting the lack of control gave me control over myself. It helped me immensely by the time I managed to recover and eventually return to work. I hope this helps you. Story 77. From 2007 to 2012, my husband and I lived on $9,000 to $12,000 a year, which was well below the poverty line. I was in college and he worked very hard so I would not have to work while in school and so we would not lose our house. Now we are in a much better financial place. Looking back, we were lucky that we did not quit and that we each did our part. Story 78. Day drinking, gaming with friends, and learning to love the one big meal a day diet. Story 79. Honestly, it was rough. I had enough saved, so it became more of a financial worry, watching my savings shrink like a ticking clock rather than a fear of not being able to pay the bills. The YouTuber CGP Grey has an old video about how to maximize misery, and it felt a lot like my life. Oddly, focusing on what to avoid was easier for me than focusing on what I should do. It is a difficult balance between giving yourself grace and holding yourself to realistic goals. Story 80. I recently graduated, and I cannot tell you how hard it is to start a career. I am currently waitressing part-time and pet sitting. The money is good, but living in two places is hard. I have a diagnosis, and I am terrified of people finding out. I taught myself that any substance that alters my behavior would be the worst choice for me. I am grateful that I can walk these dogs and get regular exercise. Story 81. I got a job. Working out and upgrading my skills helped, but I was still miserable. I was very lucky to get the position when I did because I think the job market has deteriorated since December 2024. Story 82. Know that your job is not who you are. It is what you do. Take small jobs to bring in income and do not feel that anything is below you. Money is money. Make a schedule for yourself. Make your bed, clean your house, and continue to exercise. Decide whether going back to corporate is for you or whether to start your own business. It is a lot easier than people think with an online presence. Cut everything you can. If you want to go out and not stress about money, do not go on vacation. Make food or buy prepared meals instead of ordering takeout. Frozen pizza can replace delivery. Cut your subscriptions. Most major shows air live on YouTube or post clips before they air. Do not buy more groceries than you need. Try to use up what you have before buying more. You would be amazed how many cans of soup remain unopened. Try not to stress. When you are stressed, your body can get sick. It sounds simple. Eat 3 times a day, shower, and pick up around the house daily. It is really easy for you and your home to get off track. Most of all, you are more than your emotions and feelings. Try to meditate. Use YouTube videos if you need to. Keep your head up. You have this. Story 83. I know this might sound a bit wild, but after I was unemployed for about 1 year and became deeply depressed, I started walking. At first I walked around the block, then down to the grocery store about a half mile, and eventually anywhere I could. It made me feel like I was accomplishing something instead of sitting in my house feeling nothing. I adopted a whatever-it-takes strategy. For example, to get a job I wanted, I had to drive 1 hour, go through 8 interviews, and drink a pot of coffee before each shift because it started at midnight. It was worth it because I was employed and willing to do what it took. I hope this helps. Good luck. There is no shame in your situation. Reach out to your support network for help if you need to. That is what they are there for. Story 84. Honestly, I got another job. I worked in retail and the pay was poor, but it was better than doing nothing all day. I am doing better now. Story 85. I learned to be much more humble and to seek professional help when needed. I learned to give up everything I have if necessary, because it can be replaced. I also learned that employers often recruit employees from other companies, so even a horrible, debilitating job can lead to a better one. Story 86. Honestly, talking to a few close friends helped me a lot. You start to feel less alone when you realize others understand, too. Story 87. In my case, I spent my evenings reading books and smoking weed. It was painful. I felt useless, as if there was nothing I could do. Then opportunities came, and I began to earn a small income of $100 to $300 per month. Before I knew it, I received a call from my current job, and everything has been going well ever since. That is the reality of adult life. Story 88. This is going to sound cliche as hell, and sharing this will probably get me hated on Reddit, but here goes. I have always had severe anxiety and situational depression, which often made it hard to keep a job. A few years ago, my wife and I lost a baby. Her water broke at 14 weeks, so we had to deliver. I got to hold my baby girl for a few minutes, and then it was goodbye forever. After a night in the hospital, we came home and cried for weeks. In the midst of that, I kept replaying what happened, what I could have done to prevent it, and why this happened to us. I had never felt so broken. I wanted to die. In my grief and search for answers, I decided massive wealth was the only way to never have to experience that again. I imagined having money for a helipad at home so we could get to a hospital quickly if needed. I now recognize this as delusional thinking caused by trauma, but that was where my head was. I made a plan to start a business in my industry, much larger than anything I had worked at before. I was going to start this company and make it work, or I planned to kill myself. I was fully committed. I had to start the company in another state. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. Today, that company employs 85 people. We have a 5-month-old baby girl who is my world. I do not have a helipad at my house, but I am in a financial position to get one if I ever decide I want to. I know it is popular on Reddit to blame the system or corporations, but that was not my path. I took action to solve my financial problems. 2 years ago, my account balance was often negative or in the low hundreds. Today, my net worth is in the 8 figures. I am a brown person who grew up on a farm with no college education. Anyone really can do it. Summary: desperation. Story 89. My life became a series of low-stakes side quests. The first quest is to put on jeans. The second quest is to go outside. The third quest is to buy the fancy ramen. You do not beat the main boss right away. You have to grind the low-level mobs until you are strong enough. Story 90. I went through depression for 6 months. It was the worst time of my life. In addition to job problems, personal issues made things worse. I was on the verge of leaving the city and moving back to my hometown. Somehow I pushed through that period, but I am not the same anymore. Story 91. Going outside may seem like basic, unhelpful advice, but sitting in nature really helps. If you are applying for jobs, consider doing it in a park or sitting on the grass. Do something creative, like writing, painting, or singing, and do it for fun without expectations. Exercise, it does not always mean going to the gym and lifting weights. It can be as simple as taking very long walks or climbing up and down 10 flights of stairs. Anything that tires your body can help prevent anxious dreams. Story 92. Slow and steady. I had a terrible internet connection at home, so I drove to the library and used their Wi-Fi. I applied to every job posting on every forum. I applied to headhunting firms and temp agencies and was willing to do almost anything for a paycheck. I'm happy where I am now, but it took a while to get there. I clawed my way up. After a while, depression turned into fear and dread, and I found that to be a stronger driving force than depression. If you're still only depressed, it may be because you haven't reached the point of desperation. I am not downplaying depression by any means. It is awful. I recommend trying to act not depressed, because many people hiring do not want to be around someone who is negative. People only hire people they want to be around for most of their day. Please, for your own sake, act accordingly, even if you are only acting. After all, I think most people at work are acting. Think about servers at a restaurant. They are not flirting because they like you. They do it for the tips so they can feed their kids and pay rent. Story 93. A strict regimen of ramen noodles and dissociating to old episodes of The Office. Not sure which one helped more, to be honest. Story 94. Focusing on my health for the moment. I am chronically ill, and the stress from this past year, Knowing I might lose my job around the time of the presidential inauguration and then actually losing it in April has made my illness much worse to the point where I would not be able to handle an office job. My plan is to focus on physical therapy and overall wellness to increase my stamina while casually applying for remote jobs. Once I am in a better position physically, I plan to start my own consulting limited liability company. I have family I can stay with if my unemployment and savings run out, but things still feel bleak. I have always been career motivated and ambitious, so this year has really broken me. I am trying to stay positive, and I have a supportive partner who has been my rock. I truly do not know how I would deal with all of this if you were not here. Story 95. It was a rough, extremely stressful period. I do not know of any other answer except that you must keep grinding until you receive a job offer. In the interim, practice self-care, get plenty of sleep, exercise, and take inventory of the people and good things in your life. All of that helped me. Story 96. I lost a job about 2 weeks before moving in with a friend in a new apartment. I was so stressed from this and a recent breakup that I froze. I started drinking a lot and procrastinated until the last possible moment. Then I lived in my car for a while, trying to survive by donating plasma, eating canned food from gas stations, and drinking. It was a very dark time. I considered suicide frequently, and was ashamed of what I had done to my life, so I lied to everyone and pretended I was fine. To this day, I don't think many of my friends and family know I went through any of that. I finally moved in with a friend who was kind enough to let me couch surf. It was a monumental climb back out of the mess, and I understand now how some people never get out of the pit once they've fallen in. I got lucky. Safety nets like savings and social groups are necessary in life. I've been fortunate not to be in that situation for a long time and will never allow it to happen again. Story 97. I developed a very specific and dark superpower. The ability to mentally calculate the cost per calorie of anything in the grocery store. I'm basically a broke X-Man. Story 98. Bold of you to assume I got through it. I just got a job, so now my depression has a corporate sponsor. Story 99. I started doing gig work to get out of the house and declutter my very messy room. It's a fight I have to win. Story 100. My wife went through it a couple of years ago. It was soul-crushing for her and hard for me to watch. The worst part was that she had so much of her identity invested in her job, so she was in despair most of the time. Fortunately, she had a good severance package, and my salary kept us afloat during the year it took her to get another job without changing our lifestyle much. I felt it was important not to cut back because she would have felt even worse and blamed herself. Before we had to tap our savings, she found another job. Some things we did. 1. She volunteered at a shelter. It gave her purpose, got her out of the house and kept her busy. 2. She attended therapy and kept it up. This was very important. 3. We reduced big expenses like dining out and replaced them with movies and breakfasts. We tried to get out of the house as much as possible. 4. I tried to be as present, helpful, and positive as possible. 5. She exercised, improved her health, and lost a lot of weight, which gave her something positive to focus on. 6. This may not be possible for everyone, but when she reached a very dark place, we took a vacation to a sunny destination. I was willing to go into debt for it because I felt she needed it, and it took some time to pay off. Of course, this will not work for everyone. We were still comfortable financially because we had savings and investments to fall back on. Story 101. You almost have to put blinders on and pretend there is nothing wrong. Or at least lie and tell yourself it will be fine while hoping no more emergencies happen before you get your life straightened out. Story 102. I have been in this situation for quite a while. I spiraled and hit rock bottom, and now I am slowly getting back up by investing my time in learning skills that do not require computers. So I do not have to face this fear again. I am training to be a nail technician. Story 103. I got frighteningly good at what I called depression math at the grocery store. My brain was too busy calculating the price per ounce of shredded cheese to have a panic attack in the dairy aisle. It was my only active skill for a year. Story 104. If you're going through hell, keep going. The only way out is through. Go to your local library. I can only speak for the United States, but most libraries have something for people in your situation. Also get a card and the Libby application. Audiobooks might help your mood. Either take a part-time job that is not what you want so you have somewhere to be and something to do. Retail, food service, DoorDash, Instacart, Rover, whatever. It will do wonders for your mood. Alternately, volunteer. It is a potential reference, keeps you busy, and gets you out of your own struggle. If it is just you, look into alternate lifestyles. Van life or small recreational vehicles may be more accessible than a typical house or apartment. Story 105. I went to the doctor and was honest about my struggles. I was diagnosed with depression and started taking antidepressants. I moved out of my apartment and got a job as soon as all the kids were able to go to school. I am much better now. Story 106. I am still going through it more than a year later. It was traumatic. My marriage is shaky and I have gained a few pounds. I am working on many things. First, making sure my children are taken care of. Second, focusing on myself. Story 107. I was planning my own suicide, and one day it just hit me how devastating it would be for everyone around me. That was a wake-up call, and I forced myself to go out, socialize, find work, exercise, and recover, even though I did not want to and despite my anxiety. Oddly, I have not been that heavily depressed since. Story 108. My main coping mechanism was dissociating for 8 hours a day by playing Stardew Valley. I had a thriving virtual farm while my real life was a literal dumpster fire. 10 out of 10. I would recommend it. Story 109. I spent a year without a stable job and exhausted myself trying to do many things to survive. A good thing was staying on top of my medication and continuing therapy. The depression was hard, and I played a lot of video games, but they helped separate my day into personal time and time spent looking for work. Story 110. It was mostly dissociation. I became very interested in watching videos of people power washing things. Something about blasting away years of filth just resonated, you know? Story 111. It was mostly a strict diet of instant ramen and existential dread. My big treat-yourself moment was buying Heinz ketchup instead of the store brand. I felt like a goddamn king for an afternoon. Story 112. I was on a diet that consisted of 90% spite and 10% instant noodles. I started treating job rejections like Pokemon cards. I have to catch them all. Story 113. My diet consisted of spite and whatever I could find in the back of the pantry. You would be surprised how creative you get when your main food group is various expired canned goods. I felt like I was on an episode of Chopped, but the basket was just my own poor life choices. Story 114. Stop yourself from spiraling. Follow a strict daily routine. Get up with the rest of the world, shower, and put on clean clothes. Spend the day searching for jobs. Take breaks as needed, and tweak your resumes. End the workday at 4:30 and work out. Keep weekends for yourself. Stay sober. If you let your routine slide, you can fall into a hole that is much harder to climb out of, and it will harm your ability to pursue other opportunities. Grow a thick skin. Rejection and ghosting will be the norm, not the exception. Do not take it personally. Move on immediately. Story 115. I realized I didn't have to rebuild my life overnight. I just had to survive the day and then the next one. Story 116. We carried about 12 years of six-figure debt, paying bills with credit cards and consolidating balances. With continuous pay raises and steadily chipping away, we became debt-free about 6 years ago. Unfortunately, we fell back into debt because we stopped being frugal. We are frugal again. Story 117. It depends on which country you live in and how high your rent is. If you live in a European country that offers unemployment benefits, apply for them if you can and look for a job. Story 118. I had a strong support system. I was laid off in December 2023 and was unemployed until the following January. I felt like a failure because I could not find a new job when finding any job felt like a gamble. I tried working on personal projects, but most days I struggled to get out of bed. My partner and friends were my rocks. They proved they could be relied on. Lean on your people during hard times and pay it forward by being a rock for someone else. Story 119. I was laid off twice in 2 years and spent 10 months looking for work after the second layoff. I had a financial cushion, savings, severance, and unemployment benefits. 1. I woke up early and went to the gym like it was my job. I switched from an expensive gym to Anytime Fitness. 2. I sat at my computer to work every weekday morning. That included job searching, posting on LinkedIn, reaching out to former colleagues, or the occasional freelance writing gig. 3. I scheduled 1 to 2 networking meetups every week. Lunches, coffees, dog walks with friends, former colleagues, and acquaintances. I was open about my situation on Facebook and LinkedIn, so people reached out. 4. I attended local networking events in my industry. It was a good reason to wear nice clothes and be my professional self. 5. I had a lot of free time, mostly in the afternoons. I did things that felt spiritually healthy: reading, creative writing, and jigsaw puzzles. 6. I volunteered. I used my marketing skills to coordinate communications for my college reunion and led a fundraising campaign for my church. My church sponsored a refugee family. I drove them to appointments, took them shopping, and helped with daily errands. 7. I started medication for weight loss and prioritized my health, losing a significant amount of weight. 8. I saw a therapist every 2 weeks. Even with all of the above, I struggled with depression and loss of self-worth during prolonged unemployment. The therapist helped me talk through those feelings and find ways to feel valuable even without paid work. I hope this sparks something helpful for someone who needs it. Story 120. I am still going. There is no prospect of anything good happening soon and no way out. I am just throwing days and years into the garbage bin, waiting for it to end one day, whether it is my life or the situation. Story 121. I enrolled in a master's program and took out student loans. Story 122. Kept a daily schedule. Got up early, ate breakfast with my wife, and made her lunch for work. Searched job boards and applied throughout the day, walked the dogs, went to the market once a week, fixed minor things around the house, prepped dinner, greeted my wife when she came home, kept the house clean, and did laundry. I never slept in, though I took a nap when needed. I never got used to sitting on the couch. There was always something that needed fixing, cleaning, or attention. Depressed? Yes. One day at a time. Story 123. Finding employment requires persistent effort and determination. Story 124. I am currently in this situation. We moved last year to a house we can barely afford, and now my partner's job is at risk and I am insecurely employed. We have a toddler and another child on the way, and I am absolutely terrified. I hit rock bottom last year and got therapy, so I feel stable now. Despite the fear, I know we have to get through this for our children. It may not be pretty or easy, but we will reach the other side of this chapter. What matters is that we are healthy and together. We can list our house, live with our parents for a short time, and reskill. We will figure it out. These mantras and taking action help. The undertaking of a new action brings new strength. Richard L. Evans. Believe you can and you are halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt. Story 125. Once I had had enough of lying around feeling depressed, I started going to a cheap, local gym with no contract, which made me feel good about myself again. I decided to try a new career path and have been developing it ever since. I am also thankful that I had a bedroom at my childhood home where I could stay. Story 126. I adopted a mindset. When you are going through hell, keep going, and force myself to believe that things would eventually improve. I did my best to scrape by and make small, manageable improvements. I figured I had the rest of eternity to be dead, so I might as well stick around to see what happens. If I could go back, I would have asked for more help instead of trying to power through everything on my own. Story 127. Therapy. Honestly, I did not realize how much shame I was carrying around about money until I started talking about it. I had to reframe it from, I am a failure, to, I am in a hard chapter. It is strange. Once I stopped hating myself for struggling, I started thinking more clearly and making better choices. Story 128. Control what you can control. Focus on exactly what needs to happen to get you where you want to be in life. Do not waste time. People often neglect physical fitness when things go wrong. Go to the gym or do cardio every day. You may hate it at first, but eventually you will not. Physical exertion reduces stress and gives your mind a break from wandering. Story 129. I've struggled with a lot in life. Growing up, my parents were abusive and addicted, and we moved constantly when things were bad. Now the job market is terrible, pay is low, and everything seems to be falling apart. I don't think there's been a moment in my life that has ever been easy, and yet I keep going. I like to think it's out of spite, but if I'm honest with myself, it's because things tend to get worse when you stop caring, stop trying, and become a shell of yourself. I was already living life on difficult mode, so why change it to extreme mode by giving up and creating a mess I would have to clean up later or by ending my life? I know I would never do that, so the only other option is to make things happen one way or another. Life can suck, but it gets a lot easier when you stop taking things personally. Bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. It has less to do with you and more to do with the cards you were dealt and what you make of them. Positive thinking can change your world. Say something often enough and you start to believe it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.